I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, the White House announces a new policy regarding Middle East peace. The Israeli Foreign Ministry quietly removes its ambassador to Egypt, and the Israeli Defense Forces help one couple make the memory of a lifetime. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. All eyes are on Washington today ahead of the critical first official meeting between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. President Donald Trump. In fact, even before the two men actually sit down for talks, the White House is already letting us know many of the new American leaders' thoughts on several key issues, one of which spells out a major shift in U.S. policy. A senior Trump administration official is making it clear that as much as President Trump would love nothing more than brokering a peace treaty between Israel and the Palestinians, he has no intention of imposing any kind of a roadmap to reach reconciliation. Despite his hope the two sides will come together, Trump has no plans to dictate any of the specifics. It was even stated that because of the Republican leader's uncertainty that a two-state solution is a correct framework to resolve the conflict, he's certainly not insisting on its implementation. This new outlook marks a radical departure from the three previous presidential administrations, which strongly advocated the creation of a Palestinian state alongside Israel. And as for Prime Minister Netanyahu, it's highly expected he will be informing Trump of his belief that the entire two-state concept is pointless in today's political climate and that it should be abandoned. The other issues expected to top today's discussions between the two leaders include the possible relocation of the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, further Israeli settlement expansion, and dangers posed by recent Iranian aggression. After the Israeli leaders summit with Trump, he'll be heading over to Capitol Hill for talks with Republican and Democratic congressional leaders. Ahead of today's White House summit between the U.S. president and the Israeli prime minister, a top leader of the American Jewish community was in Israel to consult with the top leadership in Jerusalem. Malcolm Hoenlein sat down with ILTV's Steve Leibowitz and gave his take on what kind of reception Netanyahu will receive just hours from now.
What kind of reception will Prime Minister Netanyahu receive when he walks into the White House to meet President Trump?
Well, he's not the first foreign leader to go, so it is appropriate. I think it'll be a very warm reception. I think that they've had some contact before, and I know that Ambassador Dermer has had contact with them, and I think that the people there will be identify themselves as supportive of Israel and identify with Israel. So I have every reason to believe that it will be positive. They will talk about issues where the United States and Israel are on the same page vis-a-vis Iran and the need for the additional sanctions and support for what the administration has done on the one hand, on Syria and the concerns and gives an opportunity for the Prime Minister to explain about what's happening on the border or how Israel is impacted by some of the changes that are taking place, maybe about Russia's role, about Iran's role there. I think that there will be issues about fighting international terrorism, and that America and Israel are on the same page and need each other and work together and reinforce one another. And then I think he'll deal with some of these domestic issues, explain the legislation, perhaps talk about what steps could be taken to address the president's desire to have a deal and to move ahead with negotiations, and maybe have his son-in-law do it or somebody else.
So let me ask you about that. Trump may actually put Netanyahu in a difficult position by saying to him, I'm behind you, I want to support you, what do you want? What do you want in the West Bank? What is your policy in the West Bank that Israel would like to pursue? And then he's going to have to say, two-state solution against the wishes of his entire cabinet, or he's going to say something else.
Entire cabinet? I don't know if the entire cabinet is against the two-state solution. And, two-state solution has become a mantra. Nobody has suggested an viable alternative, and nobody's defined exactly what a two-state solution is. We know in principle what they mean, but I remember when Sharon talked about a two-state solution when it was Jordan and Israel at the time, many years ago. So I don't know that will be the nitty-gritty of this conversation.
What will be the nitty-gritty? What is the top issue? Is it Iran? What to do about Iran? I mean, certainly there have been a lot of noises out of Washington.
I think Iran will be number one. I do think security cooperation, maybe the embassy move, maybe...
You think he's going to bring up the embassy move, or would Trump like to sort of see that promise fade into the background and not deal with it right now?
I don't know, but I think they can talk about how it could be done constructively, smartly, without necessarily arousing confrontation. I think there are steps that could be done. The issue is out there already, so it's not introducing something new. I don't know, think it'll be the focal point of their discussions. I do think that the threats by Hezbollah in the north, or the overflow from the Syrian conflict to Israel's border, the fact that Syrian troops are now coming to control closer and closer to the Israeli border, these are real issues and longer-term issues, and talking about positive steps, and also about what steps the United States and Israel could do to help move things forward, maybe with economic development in the Palestinian Authority, maybe in other areas, talking about the United Nations, talk about a whole array of issues where the two countries have interests and concerns, many of them, or most of them, shared interests and concerns.
Yet another shell fired from Syria has landed in the Israeli Golan Heights, but luckily no one has been injured. The errant shell reportedly landed in an open area, and unconfirmed reports from Syria claim it was fired by the Syrian military. The missile was supposedly being fired on rebel forces in the village of Hamidiyah, which lies in the demilitarized zone near the border of Israel. This isn't the first time that an errant shell from Syria has hit Israeli land. Just last week, the IDF fired at a Syrian government position in the Golan Heights after a tank shell landed in Israel. That shell also didn't hurt anybody, but the IDF retaliated by directly hitting a Syrian army position. The Israeli government has consistently made it clear that Israel holds the Syrian government responsible for all errant fire, regardless of where it's coming from, and says it will continue to retaliate every time Israel is hit. In a surprise move to the world, Israel's foreign ministry has quietly pulled the ambassador of Egypt, David Gavrin, out of the country and brought him back to Jerusalem. The stated reason for removing the Israeli foreign diplomat was for security concerns, but ILTV's Aaron Porras has more on the story. Aaron.
Thank you very much, Natasha. And yes, you're right. As you said, the Israeli Foreign Ministry did state security concerns for their reason to pull Gavrin out of Cairo, but they didn't really specify what those concerns are. But given the insurgencies and a lot of the events that have been happening in the Sinai over the last few years, it certainly leaves a lot to consider.
Gavrin was appointed in August of 2016 to fulfill the role of the 13th ambassador to Egypt since 1979, when Israel and Egypt re-established diplomatic relations. Speculations into why the ambassador's tenure was cut so short lie primarily on the Sinai branch of the Islamic State terror organization, which has been increasingly terrorizing the country over the past few years. Egypt has suffered attacks by them a multitude of times since 2011, including bus bombings, hostage crises, and attacks on civilian religious institutions. In September of 2013, just 2 months after Islamist President Mohamed Morsi was ousted, Egypt banned the Muslim Brotherhood. According to the chief of Egyptian military intelligence, Mohammed Farag al-Shahat, the banned militant supporters of the movement have since allied themselves with the Islamic State, making the near-decade-long insurgency issue that much worse. Since 2015, the Egyptian army has claimed to have killed over 500 Sinai Peninsula Islamic State-affiliated fighters. The Islamic State, though, has also since claimed the lives of hundreds of Egyptian military men and civilians as well, most notably when they claimed responsibility for killing over 200 passengers and crew of a Russian airliner. Spillover violence has also had its effect on Israel. In late January of 2017, the Israeli Counterterrorism Bureau at the Prime Minister's office advised Israeli travelers to leave the country, raising the risk of attack to level 1, the highest level. Then last week, the Islamic State claimed responsibility for 4 rockets aimed at Israel's southernmost tourism hub, Eilat. The Iron Dome intercepted 3 rockets, leaving the 4th to fall in an open field. Israel's ambassador to Egypt from 2003 to 2005, Eli Shaked, in a statement to the Telegraph News, said that while he was often alarmed of security threats, it was never enough to warrant leaving the country, though he continued saying it was different then. Nowadays, the security problems are much tougher.
Sick of carrying around a bulky phone charger? Well, you're in luck because an Israeli company has just introduced one of the thinnest wall chargers you've ever seen. In fact, the Israeli startup called Cairo has just designed several different super slim devices. One for smartphones is so small you can slip it right into your wallet. It's only 0.2 inches wide, which is about the same as 3 credit cards. The 0.21-pound Cairo sleeve is the world's first ever foldable charger capable of providing up to 70 watts of power. Because it has 2 USB ports, different devices including smartphones, laptops, or tablets can all be powered up at the same time. There's also the Cairo wallet weighing in at half a pound, which can be used for tablets, cameras, wireless speakers, and headphones with a 10-watt power supply. The company was only established a few months ago, and it's already been successful in raising the $1.2 million that are necessary to complete its super slim specialty product line. Check this out.
It includes a tiny charging unit and a uniquely designed detachable cable unit. You can also connect devices using a USB cable directly to the charger. Fully compliant with safety regulations, Cairo's electrical prongs fold in and out, allowing increased portability. The 2-feet retractable cable allows for data and power transfer. Using a roll-in system, Cairo Wallet keeps the cable intact and eliminates bulky, tangled wires.
Its co-founders say their unique power conversion technology is about to be showcased in even more ultra-tiny products. So get ready to throw away all that bulky equipment you're now stuck lugging around, because a Cairo Supercharger's commercial line is set to be launched later this year. It's estimated that almost 12 million Americans deal with head lice infestations every year. That's 12 million people just in the United States. Now, while lice may seem primitive and simple to deal with, they're apparently harder to get rid of than you might expect. One Israeli company claims to have the answer to ridding your life of lice, and in just a few minutes. Joining me to tell us more is David Tavor, the CEO and board member of Parasonic. Thank you so much for coming in. So, my entire childhood dealt with head lice. It was the worst, and I know a lot of families have to deal with this with young kids in kindergartens. Now, tell us, what are the risks of having head lice?
It's uncomfortable to wear them all day, and it's annoying, actually. It's nothing that it harms something in your head or scalp, but it's not comfortable and unpleasant. And personally, if you go somewhere and you have to eat yourself all the time,
yeah, it's not nice.
Yeah,
so who gets laced the most often?
Sorry?
Who gets laced the most often?
Kids.
Kids, right?
Yeah.
In kindergarten, young.
Kindergarten, schools, yeah.
Wow. Okay, so, from what I understand, it's mainly just about itching, but are there side effects? Can you get sick from having lice?
The parts that you are itching, you can harm your scalp by scratching, and then you have some diseases of the scalp.
Right.
So that's the only thing.
So how does Parasonic work? You guys created a safer and easier way to get rid of lice, correct?
Yeah, Parasonic actually develops an innovation that we believe that it's the ultimate solution, because the lice cannot develop a resistance to it. And as opposed to any other mean or device in the market, chemicals and others, this device uses ultrasonic waves and destroy all the inner parts of the lice and the eggs.
So how does it work? You run it over your head?
You hold it like that. This is, by the way, not the final version,
okay,
but it's the first version that we have right now. And you comb the head like this. Mm-hmm. Very simple. In a few minutes, the lice and the eggs, and I emphasize the think that we kill also the eggs at the
Which
same
is
at the
the
same
most
time.
difficult part of getting rid of lice, because you
Exactly.
can get rid of the bugs, but if there are eggs left over, then that's
And if
the
you
nightmare.
leave
Yeah.
leave some eggs around, in 2 weeks you have the lice again.
Exactly. All right, so what inspired you to work on this problem? You know, it's a very common problem, obviously.
It's a challenge, and it's something new that I believe, and not only me, but all the others that I'm in touch with, believe that this is a unique innovation, and it will be very, very efficient, and we are lacking something like that in the
Well, we
market.
certainly are. I mean, there are a million different ways that they say you can get rid of lice, but the process can be a lot more difficult. Now, is this available yet, or when is it going to be available?
Not yet. We are at the last stage of redesigning the device. We've completed a clinical trial, very, very successful, as I told before, and we believe that at the end of the year it will be in the market.
So I guess the final
Yes,
question is
only
what
in
is,
a few months.
yeah, or only in a few months. Well, I guess the final question is what is next for your company? I mean, are you going to tackle other types of bugs, from bed bugs to, you know, dog fleas?
Yes, exactly. But firstly, we want to treat the people and then the pets. So this is the priority that we put to ourselves.
Well, I'm sure there are
Yeah.
a lot of people who are going to want to use this product. I can
Yes.
see there are all these parents already probably watching this thinking, how can I get my hands on that? I don't want to stay home again with my lice-infested children.
Line up and be patient, and within a year you can get it.
Beautiful. All right, well, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Now, if you're addicted to watching TV and not just aisle TV, here's some really exciting news. The American cable network HBO has just announced a major collaboration with the Israeli satellite channel Yes. In other words, we have a whole new bunch of shows to look forward to because the two content providers are going to put their genius together to create new Israeli dramas, comedies, and documentaries. Today, Yes already screens HBO films and series in Israel like the infamous show Girls, Silicon Valley, and of course Game of Thrones, but the new collaborative agreement between the two companies means we may even be able to see some new American adaptations of Israeli shows and content. I know I can't wait to see what they turn out. All right, moving on. Diamonds, diamonds, diamonds. They say they're a girl's best friend, but the diamond industry is facing more and more challenges as the years go on. Now, Israel is actually home to the Diamond Tower, which has the world's largest diamond trading floor. And just in time for Valentine's Day, the Holy Land is hosting its 6th International Diamond Week to help strengthen its position as a major hub in the world's diamond industry. What's the difference between this diamond and this diamond? For someone without much knowledge about the precious stone, it might be hard to see with the naked eye, but this week dozens of diamond companies are crowded in Ramat Gan to find the best of the best. Israel is one of the most important diamond centers in the industry, so it's no surprise that over 400 buyers from 30 countries are attending this year's events.
It's very important for the diamond industry. And for all diamond mining companies, for all diamond manufacturers, it's important that that different diamond centers are developing, so that's actually why we're here.
In Israel, diamonds account for about 20% of all industrial exports, but the market isn't always easy. Diamond sales hit a slump in 2015, but bounced back in 2016.
One of the greatest challenges is trying to make diamonds relevant to the millennials, which is actually the new generation who we must appeal to, who don't know a diamond is forever, didn't grow up with that.
Al Rosa is the world's largest producer of rough diamonds in carat terms, and is displaying 3 massive rough diamonds at Israel's International Diamond Week, including a replica of the Russian imperial crown. Now get this, the replica contains 4,800 diamonds and over 1,000 carats, making it worth over $20 million. You may not be able to afford something like that, but don't worry, Israel has lots of diamond options to choose from, if you're still looking for a gift for your loved one. Given that it was just Valentine's Day, love and marriage are still on many people's minds. And here's the latest on how the Israeli public is thinking about tying the knot. Many people don't know that Israeli marriages are still performed under laws carried over from the Ottoman rule that restrict couples to marry only with members of their own faiths and by their own clergy. And now an overwhelming majority of today's citizens say they want that to change. The latest poll finds that a whopping 95% of secular Jews want the freedom to marry whomever they choose and however they wish to do so. And so does 67% of the more traditional crowd. Among the Arab community, 79% of Muslims, 76% of Druze, and 71% of Christians also support these same sentiments. There wasn't quite as much cohesion on the introduction of civil marriage and divorce, which also doesn't currently exist. Right now, Israel's Orthodox chief rabbinate controls all unions and dissolutions of Jewish couples, while the other faiths are also under the authority of their own respective publicly funded clergy. 72% of the Jewish community wants non-religious civil ceremonies to be accepted. In the Arab sector, 60% of those between 25 and 34 years old favor civil marriage and divorce, while just 27% of the older generation, 65 and up, think it should be made available. As you may know, yesterday was Valentine's Day, and for all of you hopeless romantics out there, man, do we have a story for you. ILTV's Aaron Porras joins me to report on the sweetest Valentine tale of the year. Aaron.
Yes, thank you. This couple has a very special history, and their smiling faces have been plastered across media all over the world. We can only just hope that we have a bond as close as they have had for a very long time.
John McKay at 96 and his wife Edith Steiner, 92, are an unlikely pair. Edith is a survivor of the Auschwitz Nazi death camp, and John was a Scottish commando who was in the group of soldiers who helped save her. After the war ended, the two met at a dance and have been together ever since. Today, though the loving couple resides in the Balcarres care home in Scotland, it hasn't stopped them from celebrating Valentine's Day every year. This year's day marks their 71st together. Pamela Shaw, who is the activity coordinator at the home, says their devotion to one another is clear to everyone, and that John and Isi, as Edith is called, still call each other sweetheart every day.
With all this love in the air, we thought it was only appropriate to share this heartwarming video of an Israeli proposal to remember. The Israeli Defense Forces sure do know how to celebrate.
The Hebrew word of the day is brought to you by the University of Haifa, Hebrew Summer Ulpan, open to everyone.
And now for the Hebrew word of the day. Millions of people all around the world celebrated love yesterday, but being someone's Valentine isn't the only type of proposal you might come across. So today's word is latzia, meaning to propose or suggest. Now, of course, apart from Valentine's Day proposals, there are marriage proposals or atzaot nisuim. But latzia is an everyday term too. Let's say you're at a restaurant and don't know what to order. You can ask mata matzia, meaning what do you suggest? Or maybe you're just thinking of what to do tonight with your friends. You could say ani matzia seret bakalnoa, meaning I suggest a movie at the theater. No matter what the proposal, just remember to be open to saying yes. Being at the right place in the right time is how some of life's most amazing turns appear. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast.
ILTV's weather forecast is sponsored by Adopt a Savta, taking care of Israel's lonely Holocaust survivors.
Tonight we'll have scattered storms and a low of 48 or 9 degrees Celsius. You can expect temperatures to remain cold tomorrow as the rains continue. The daily high should be around 56 or 13 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.75 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. Thanks for watching and see you next time.